And so let me start by as one example of where we need to, I think, rethink democracy, consider the first argument that I gave you for rethinking random, for thinking about using random selection, the argument about the prevention of corruption and domination. Random selection is very attractive in this regard if you want to keep certain kinds of bad reasons out of the process of selecting officials. But the obvious problem is it's also very good at keeping out good reasons for selecting officials. That's also part of what it does. You can't really get the one without getting the other. If you are concerned about expertise, for example, well, unless you have pre-screened the pool already to make sure that you're only randomly selecting among experts, you're not going to be able to get expertise guaranteed in there. It's also, I mean, if you care about public opinion, I mean, of course, the whole purpose of holding elections is to say that, well, the people who are getting in are the ones who have the popular ideas, and this ensures that, guess what, it doesn't matter if you're popular or not, you're going to get on there anyway, you know, so if you consider these concerns like expertise or popular support to be good reasons to putting someone on there, well, random selection works against that. And this suggests that random selection is particularly good where there are certain kinds of decisions. And I want to stress, I think that there are some people who really want random selection to be used all over the place. I think there are certain particular roles that is very important. For one thing, it is best when we have roles that one might consider public roles that are non-political in some sense. Now that's a controversial kind of a term. Not, you know, what counts as political and what does not count as a political kind of a role. But there is this idea that there are some decisions that it is reasonable for us to fight, some kind of decisions it is reasonable for us to fight about in the public space, and others where perhaps they're not supposed to be political issues. I mean, that's, I think, one of the major problems ailing my home country, the United States, is the fact that all kinds of decisions that frankly shouldn't be political are political. The President of the United States can't actually get up and tell school children that they should study hard and stay in school and try to go to university, and without people going crazy, a large number of people going crazy about that. His wife can't tell children that they should eat more vegetables and avoid fatty foods without people going crazy and saying he's trying to set up some kind of fascist police state or something like that because he's trying to brainwash our kids or something. So that's, I think, one way of saying that there's all kinds of things that frankly shouldn't be political decisions have become political decisions. If you wanted to ask me what kind of decisions I think are perhaps best for the most obvious cases for where random selection is appropriate, they would be, the phrase I have used sometimes is there are certain kinds of roles that are important as guardians of the political system. They're the kind of roles that are designed to make sure that the political process works smoothly and democratically. For example, who is it that writes the rules for ethics that govern politicians? Right now it's politicians, and not surprisingly those rules don't work very well much of the time. What if you had randomly selected pools of people who were responsible for writing those codes, of ordinary citizens to write the codes and then to enforce those codes on politicians? That might be a non-political task, but it's a task of extreme importance to the political system. Or policing the electoral process, making sure that the process is working smoothly, that the votes are being counted fairly. Essentially important, but again, in a sense, non-political in an important role. And again, I think there is a good role for random selection in such things. I'll just mention one other challenge that's posed by random selection. Random selection poses for democracy, and that relates to the other reason for considering random selection. It's this idea of descriptive representation, this idea that it's a way of generating groups of people that are a mirror of the broader population. Well, it's an attractive idea. There's something, I think, for many people have the intuition that says, our legislature or other decision-making bodies should look like the broader people in some sense, that there's something democratic about that. But of course, that is an image of democracy that fits very poorly with the other idea we have about democracy, which is, well, it should be the people who the people choose. On the one hand you say, well, this group is democratic because it looks like the broader population, and on the other hand you say, oh no, it should look democratic because they're the ones that the people chose. And those ideas do not fit together very well. You sort of have to decide, do you want the one and do you want the other? And I think many of our debates about representation are flawed because we can't quite make up our mind which one we want, and so we try to have two things at once that we cannot have. The other, I'll just close with this observation, is it also might be a problem when you have societies that are suffering from deep divisions of various kinds. After all, one of the things that random selection does is ensure that if you happen to be a minority in the population, you're going to be a minority on the randomly selected body. And so that can cause problems where there are majorities and there are minorities that don't get along very well. I mean, in the country I live right now, in Ireland, this is an ongoing problem with the 6 counties we have to the north. In Northern Ireland, where you have a very deep divide between the Catholic and the Protestant communities. And one of the things that we are exploring right now, me with a group of other researchers, is the ways that sortition might be adapted to that kind of context, because you don't want it to be straight, well, we'll take a random sample and we'll just let them decide, because of course it's going to probably be a Protestant majority, and they probably might just wind up just doing something that completely ignores the Catholic minority. So how does one deal with random selection in those kind of contexts? It's tricky, because the nice idea of, we will get descriptive representation doesn't do everything that we would like it to do in those kind of contexts. So I think that solving these kind of problems is going to take a lot of very hard work, but I think actually that kind of work is worth it, because based on what I've said to you, I think there are very good reasons why sortition should become a part of our democratic practice, and therefore deserves more attention in the future.